All right, guys, I get to finally tell you something that happened at Walmart, and how I took care of it and what we're doing moving forward. So let's go. Hi guys, so I'm going to tell you guys about something that happened at Walmart my first week of work that I didn't quite handle until right now. So basically, my first week of work, there was a service dog used lightly, I'll explain why, and an ESA. The first time they passed by me, it was like the Saturday of my first week of work, and they had just passed my register. There was an ESA in the cart, and it was labeled ESA. It was labeled emotional support on the vest, one of those classic, these guys. And then there was a service dog, and he was off leash, walking past, and so Toby did just a quiet little boof, just be like, hey, no. So I immediately called somebody over, and I worked with Toby to try to get him to lay back down and focus. So I called somebody over, like a CSM, which is basically the people that run the front desk and supervise all the cashiers, and they said there was nothing they could do about it. And I said, well, that's not true, because I know that that's not true. You know, I'm a service dog handler. I know the ADA. And they're just like, well, there's nothing we can do about it. However, I was told later that they did end up going and telling the person that the ESA could not be in the cart, but they did not ask the ESA or the service dog to leave, even though they distracted Toby. So the next day, literally the next day, this handler brings these same dogs through my line. The ESA is not in the cart anymore. It's being held, but it is the same two dogs. The service dog was on a leash this time, but he was pulling and sniffing and trying to get at the gate that where Toby is. When that person came through my line with the ESAs, or the ESA and the fake service dog that was pulling, basically he started making comments like, my service dogs are better than your service dogs, and your dog shouldn't be here. Fun stuff like that. Okay. And basically I immediately called somebody over to take over for me. I had them call for management, and management came over and said that there was nothing they could do. Now, just to clarify, especially if you haven't seen these videos in the iCard, you would know that Walmart doesn't really have an ESA policy per se, and basically Walmart has a pretty notorious, we're not going to deal with this kind of thing, we're just not going to do anything about it, hence why it's called a word I've been trying not to use while I'm employed there, but this word. Which is a common word referred to by service dog handlers to refer to Walmart. I was feeling pretty concerned. I felt really unsafe, but I had to keep going to work, you know, and I just really kept a good eye on Toby. There have been a couple more just general pets brought in to our location that we work at since then, which has been kind of frustrating. There was even a parrot brought in, and employees came over and were like, oh, it's so cute, there's a parrot. And coming over, when a pet was brought in, an employee came over, pet the dog, and then came over and started distracting Toby and trying to pet him while I was cashiering, which was definitely a big no-no. But then, of course, Toby was out for a couple weeks due to the incident, which, again, another iCard. If you haven't watched that video, you definitely need to. So Toby did return to work finally, and one of the conversations about him coming back to work was our safety, especially his, with the amount of fake service dogs that do go into Walmart. Now, there are real service dogs, and there are real service dogs in my community, and I understand that, but I have not seen one yet. So basically, Brielle said, you need to do something about his safety. You need to bring pepper spray or something. You need to talk to management. So there was an issue regarding what I could say. So as a service dog handler, I know there's 2 questions basically, and I've advocated for myself and my dog to say, hey, you know, your dog shouldn't be here, you need to leave, or contacting the right people to get dogs removed because they're not real service dogs. So as a handler, that's kind of my responsibility. But as an employee, originally, and I did a lot of research on the policy, hence why I started making the Walmart law videos, that employees are not, like, normal employees are not allowed to say anything at all. Don't ask any questions. I was only allowed at that point to call somebody over, step off my register, and focus on my dog. So I talked to our security guy, I'm going to call him Jake. Basically, he said, yeah, you're not really allowed to say anything. He actually said I am allowed to say, you know, your dog is distracting my service dog, which is for a medical task or medical, he does, you know, he just kind of was like, your dog does medical, and you need to control your dog so that it stops distracting my service dog. That was something I was allowed to say. But basically, he said that I wasn't allowed to bring pepper spray, which obviously that's a big no-no. Customers are, but employees aren't. There was no way to protect my dog, and that management doesn't typically understand, and that he got a degree in criminal law. But what the hilarious part is that he was like, oh, I have a degree in criminal law. I know exactly about all the service dog laws and, you know, stuff like that. And I said, okay, so did you know that ESAs aren't allowed in the building? He's like, what's an ESA? So definitely an issue. So basically the other thing that had happened was that the security guy also told me that the pet policy was flexible. The pet policy at Walmart is not supposed to be flexible. The pet policy in America is not supposed to be flexible, except at pet-friendly places. Then you would expect it to be flexible. So basically, I called Brielle and let her know about the conversation, and as soon as I told her about that pet policy comment, she said, okay, I'm gonna go. I'll call you back. So what happened was she called my store manager and basically said, you know, I'm Toby's trainer, and my client is feeling unsafe, you know, explain the situation. And he said, like, oh my gosh, she's not in trouble. I'm so glad that you contacted me. Kind of explained to her that because I had contacted different members of management and no one did anything, like, I was still doing the right thing. Like, even if I didn't feel comfortable coming up and talking to him, especially because he's a very, very busy person. I've had all of, like, 2 conversations with him prior to this point. So it definitely was like, I hadn't seen him, so I didn't get the chance to, you know, talk to him. And so he thanked Brielle and was, like, super nice about it and was like, I'm not only going to sit down and have a talk with Michaela, but I'm going to retrain all of management on service dogs and how that works, which is a good thing, because honestly, if you have a service dog in your store, you shouldn't, like, not know what to do. Like, what's a service dog? How does the ADA work? So I did have that talk with the store manager and the people lead, and the people lead is basically the HR kind of person for Walmart, for the location. So we had a conversation about what happened and what to do. Basically, we're coming up with different ideas as to what to do in the scenarios, because there's always going to be dogs that come into Walmart. Like, not everybody is trained on it, but having management trained to respond to the situation is a lot better of an idea. So we basically, we're going to come up with a code for the register that nobody uses. Like there's a couple that are like cleanup or like customer emergency that like, or like just, there's a couple buttons that we don't use on a daily basis, or on a regular basis, that they're thinking of converting to be hey, whoever's being a CSM, you know, overseeing the cashiers, like, this is your button to call, that you need to call management for me. So basically, and you guys have seen pictures of my register in different videos, but here's another just in case. Basically, I'm in the tobacco sales aisle, so basically, I also, like, so it's a little bit of, like, a blocked off area, which is good for Toby, but also I redeem the lottery tickets at that register. So I don't have a phone at that register like every other register does. Most of them do. So because I don't have a phone, I can't call management myself. So we're going to have hopefully we'll have a button that says, you know, Michaela and Toby really need management. Is basically what that's going to say. Like, there's a dog issue, or Michaela's having an emergency kind of thing, which is really good. I think that'll help with communication, because at least the CSMs don't have to, like, they're obviously going to rush over and see what's wrong, but they don't have to handle it. Management can come and handle it. Everybody's going to be trained that that button means that. So that'll be really good. Well, it's something we're talking about anyways. I don't know if it's going to happen. And then the store manager is going to brush up on the policies just to make sure I am allowed to say something, because when I had said that I'm not allowed to say anything, he's like, that's definitely not true. If you're feeling unsafe, you can say, you know, your dog's distracting my service dog, you need to control your dog. Or say, like, you know, I'm going to call management because you're not controlling your dog, you know. Like, I'm allowed to say what I need to, you know, which is good. So those things are kind of pending right now. But also, since this conversation, people, well, first of all, at the end of that conversation, I just kind of made a note to them that, like, you know, people always have a very negative view of Walmart. Well, hold up. Service dog handlers always have a very negative view of Walmart due to the enforcement of the pet policy. So I made the comment that, you know, service dog handlers are really scared to come into Walmart, and, like, they're nervous that their dog's going to get hurt or attacked. And my goal here is just make our location a safe place for people, and to be able to advocate for not only me and my dog, but for legitimate service dog handlers in my community. And I think that comment really hopefully stood out to them, just showing them that I'm serious. Like, I want to work at Walmart with my service dog. I just need it to be a safe place. And the store manager replied back with, like, you know, you and Toby are both my employees. I need to look out for both of your safety. So seriously, if there's anything you're concerned about, like, come to me. I need to make sure you guys are safe, which is really good. I'm really glad they're taking it seriously. But not only after this, management really, in interactions with management since then, I've only had a couple shifts since then, but management has been really, really nice, like, more understanding of Toby and, like, his purpose and why he's there. So basically, like, the last shift I worked a 6-hour shift, and typically most Walmart employees are supposed to get a half an hour lunch during that time. And I'd never worked a 6-hour shift, so I was asking a couple people, like my manager and my CSM, like, hey, what am I supposed to do? You know, like, it's a half an hour or an hour, because my phone said an hour. Our phones typically glitch with the schedule, so they're not always correct. But then my manager had told the CSM that I was supposed to get an hour lunch, so I went and talked to my manager. I'm like, are you sure? And she's like, Toby has to have time for himself, and he has to go potty, and you got to make sure that he's good. Like, I just want you to have time to take care of your service dog. So that was, like, really impressive, and I ended up, like, staying outside with him for, like, 10-15 minutes, just letting him go potty. He ended up going poop, which is a little more difficult for him on, like, wood chips and rocks, so I was actually able to walk. I had time to walk over the grass and, you know, get him to poop, which is really good. Yeah, so hopefully these changes will really help. Also, I have changed my availability at Walmart, so I'm working there a little less right now, but that's the only other update I really have. Just because of school and just trying to finish things. I'm also not working 8-hour shifts anymore. I ended up getting, like, really, really, really fatigued and, like, pale and sick. When I came home, I was really grumpy. I just came home not feeling well, like, just really drained. So, yeah. Hopefully this is a good update, and yeah, I look forward to sharing more about what happens with the situation soon. So, thanks for watching. Bye!
Say hello. big boy. You